All right, let's get into it. You see that rugged, boxy ride climbing over rocks like it's nothing, and think, yep, that's a Jeep. But have you ever stopped to wonder why we call it that? Why Jeep? It's not just some random name a marketing team cooked up in a boardroom. Nah, the real story is way cooler, packed with muddy battlefields, tired soldiers, and a little bit of cartoon magic. It's a tale of grit, slang, and pure, unadulterated American ingenuity. So buckle up, because we're about to take a deep dive into how this legendary vehicle got its iconic name, and trust me, it's not what you think. Let's rewind the clock. We're talking World War II. The US Army had a problem. They needed a vehicle that was light, nimble, and tougher than a $2 steak, something that could handle the absolute worst conditions imaginable. From the swampy jungles of the Pacific to the frozen forests of Europe, they needed a do-it-all gunny-wear machine. The bigwigs put out a call to automakers with a laundry list of insane demands. It had to be four-wheel drive, weigh next to nothing, and be built like a tank. It was a tall order, but two companies, Willys Overland and Ford, stepped up to the plate. After a whole lot of engineering head-scratching and battlefield testing, they delivered a masterpiece. This little beast could cross rivers, climb mountains, and take a beating that would send any other vehicle to the scrap heap. But it still needed a name. The Army, being the Army, didn't go for anything flashy. They gave it a designation that was all business, no frills. GP. Now, what does GP even mean? It's pretty straightforward, actually. It stood for General Purpose. This thing was the Swiss Army knife of vehicles, designed for any and every task you could throw at it. It was a scout car, a light weapons carrier, an ambulance, a staff car, you name it. Its official, mind-numbingly boring name was the truck. Quarter-ton, 4x4, command reconnaissance. Yeah, try saying that 3 times fast when you're under fire. The soldiers on the ground needed something simpler. They started with the official abbreviation, GP. Imagine you're a GI, covered in mud, exhausted, and your sergeant yells, "Go get the GP." It's functional, but it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. But soldiers have a knack for turning clunky military jargon into catchy slang. It's a survival thing, a way to build camaraderie and just make life a little easier. So here's where the magic starts to happen. Picture it, the constant rattle of engines, the crackle of radio static, the chaos of a forward operating base. Guys are shouting orders back and forth. GP starts getting slurred together. It's faster, it's punchier. Think about it. When you say GP over and over again really fast, what does it start to sound like? Jeep, it's just natural linguistic evolution, happening at lightning speed under the intense pressure of war. The name wasn't chosen. It was born out of necessity and repetition. It was organic, created by the very men who relied on this vehicle to keep them alive. It was their workhorse, their lifeline, and they gave it a name that felt right. The sound just stuck. By the time the war was in full swing, everyone from privates to generals was calling it a Jeep. It was short, it was simple, and it perfectly captured the spirit of this plucky little machine. But hold on, because that's not the whole story. Like any good legend, there's a twist. Another version of the tale that's just as compelling, and this one involves a beloved cartoon character back in the 1930s. One of the most popular comic strips was Popeye. In this world, there was a bizarre, magical creature named Eugene the Jeep. Now, Eugene was this small, sort of dog-like animal from another dimension. He couldn't really talk. The only sound he made was Jeep, Jeep. But he had these incredible powers. He could walk through walls, teleport, and solve any problem. He was a tiny, mystical being that could go anywhere and do anything. Sound familiar? When the new military vehicle started showing up, with its seemingly magical ability to conquer any terrain, some people made the connection. They saw this small, unstoppable machine and thought of Eugene the Jeep. It was the perfect analogy. The vehicle, like the character, was a problem solver that could get you out of any jam. So, which story is true? The GP slang theory or the Eugene the Jeep connection? The honest answer is, it's probably a bit of both. The two origin stories likely ran in parallel, reinforcing each other until Jeep was the only name that made sense. It's the perfect blend of military grit and pop culture charm. While soldiers were busy nicknaming their new favorite ride, the engineers back in the factories weren't thinking about branding or marketing. They were obsessed with one thing: function over form. They were building a tool, not a fashion statement. The design was brutally simple. Every single part had a purpose. The flat fenders, you could use them as a workbench. The fold-down windshield, it made the vehicle smaller for transport and reduced its profile. The body was basically a steel tub with seats, a steering wheel, and an engine that refused to quit. These things were designed to be fixed with a hammer and some good old-fashioned cussing right there on the battlefield. There were no creature comforts, no radio, no air conditioning, no fancy trim, just raw mechanical capability. They were built to take hits, get dented, and keep on rolling. This focus on pure, unadulterated performance is what forged the Jeep's soul. It wasn't pretty, but it was beautiful in its own way, perfect expression of utilitarian design. Then, the war ended. Millions of soldiers came home, but they never forgot the tough little vehicle that had been their constant companion. That scrappy 4x4 wasn't just a piece of equipment, it was a character in their war story. It was the beast that hauled them through mud, sand, and snow. The one thing they could always count on when everything else went sideways. They had a bond with it. And when they got back to civilian life, they wanted that same never-give-up energy. Willys Overland saw an opportunity. They started producing a civilian version, the CJ, which stood for Civilian Jeep. They marketed it to farmers, ranchers, and anyone who needed a rugged rig to work the land. And people went nuts for it. The Jeep became a symbol of post-war American freedom and self-reliance. It was the vehicle for people who weren't afraid to get their hands dirty. For the off-roaders and adventurers, it was a ticket to the wild, a way to explore the parts of the country where the pavement ended. The name Jeep was no longer just military slang. It was a brand, a badge of honor that stuck like duct tape. Fast forward to today, look at a modern Jeep Wrangler. Sure, it has GPS, heated seats, and a much smoother ride. But you can still see that World War II DNA in its bones. The iconic 7-slot grille, the round headlights, the squared-off body, the removable doorsets, all there. It's a direct descendant of that original military machine. When you see a Jeep crawling over a massive rock or splashing through a deep mud puddle, it's carrying on a tradition that's over 80 years old. It still has that swagger, that I'll climb that hill just because I can attitude. The brand has expanded, of course, with models like the Cherokee and Grand Cherokee, but the core identity remains the same. Jeep is more than just a name for a car company. It has become a whole personality on wheels. It represents a desire for adventure, a love for the outdoors, and a certain rebellious spirit. It's a statement that says, I don't care if this road is paved, I'm going anyway. So here's a little thought experiment for you. The next time you re-out on the road and you see a lifted Wrangler with giant tires or a lovingly restored old CJ, take a second to really look at it. Don't just see a vehicle, see the history. See the grainy black and white footage of GIS in Europe. Hear the echo of soldiers shouting GP until it became Jeep. Picture that weird little cartoon animal that could go anywhere. Think about the engineers who cared more about durability than design. Are you looking at a simple SUV, or are you looking at a legend? A piece of rolling history born from soldier slang, American grit, and a refusal to ever give up. That, my friends, is the story of the Jeep. It's a name earned in the mud and trenches, a name that means freedom, and a name that will forever be synonymous with adventure. Thanks for sticking with me on this deep dive. If you dug this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from behind the wheel. We've got plenty more to explore. Catch you on the next one.